The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "The kingdom of heaven is like a landowner going out at daybreak to hire workers for his vineyard. He made an agreement with the workers for 1 denarius a day and sent them to his vineyard. Going out at about the 3rd hour, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace and said to them, 'You go to my vineyard too, and I will give you a fair wage.' So they went. At about the 6th hour, and again at about the 9th hour, he went out and did the same. Then at about the 11th hour, he went out and found more men standing around. And he said to them, 'Why have you been standing here idle all day?' 'Because no one has hired us,' they answered. He said to them, 'You go into my vineyard too.' In the evening, the owner of the vineyard said to his bailiff, 'Call the workers and pay them their wages, starting with the last arrivals and ending with the first.' So those who were hired at about the 11th hour came forward and received 1 denarius each. When the first came, they expected to get more, but they too received 1 denarius each. They took it, but grumbled at the landowner. 'The men who came last,' they said, 'have done only 1 hour, and you have treated them the same as us, though we have done a heavy day's work in all the heat.' He answered one of them and said, 'My friend, I am not being unjust to you. Did we not agree on 1 denarius? Take your earnings and go. I choose to pay the last comer as much as I pay you. Have I no right to do what I like with my own? Why be envious because I am generous?' Thus the last will be first, and the first last." My dear brothers and sisters, the Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Only when the last tree has been cut down, the last fish been caught, the last animal been killed, and the last bird die, only by then we will realize that money can do nothing to save our life. Good morning, everyone. It is good to see you here again in this Sunday. We continue to reflect on the season of creation. In ecological discussions, there is a kind of understanding that one of the reasons why we have all these ecological crises and environmental devastations is because people tend to think that all other creation are created in order to serve humans' needs. Some people even use biblical texts from Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28 as the legitimation of the environmental exploitation they have done. They would say that it is God's will that humans should be the dominion over other creations. And this is the reason why deforestation happened, because people cut down trees and build their houses and their cities. This is the reason why air and water pollution happened, because people keep on developing new technologies. The means of transportation, for instance, using oil as fuel and causing global warming. And of course, you can add more examples to this list. And this kind of belief in ecology and environmental study is called anthropocentrism, Anthropos is from a Greek word, means human beings, and center. So the belief that argue that the human beings is the center of the creation. With this background, in 1967, a medieval historian, Lynn White is his name, published an article entitled "The Historical Roots of Our Ecology Crisis," blaming Christianity, saying that Christianity is the reason why people have anthropocentric mindset and anthropocentric attitudes. In this article that has become the most cited piece of writing within ecological and theological debate about the environment, he writes, Christianity not only established a dualism of human and nature, but also insisted that it is God's will that humans exploit nature for his proper ends. And here he quotes again Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28. Lynn White clearly states in his article that Christianity is the most anthropocentric religion the world have ever seen. And this article started an ongoing debate on anthropocentrism in general and the anthropocentricity of Christian theology in particular. One of the strong tendencies in the recent ecological discussion is to get away from anthropocentrism. So they suggest another term, biocentrism, arguing that all non-human creations have the value on their own. And if we want to save this earth, we need to put aside all human interest. Just forget about humans. Let us save the environment. Donna Haraway, for example, she's an anthropologist, proposes make kin, not babies. But the question here is, I think, why should we concern about our environment? Why should we concern about this earth? The reason is because this is the place where we humans live. Or to use Pope Francis' term in Laudato Si, we concern about this earth because this is our common home. The environmental devastations is also happening in other planets as well. But we concern more about this earth because if we don't, our life will be in danger. Any kind of activity, including the exploitation of nature, that at the end put humans' life in danger is against anthropocentrism. In other words, I would like to say that our environmental and ecological concern would only be effective if it is anthropocentric. I am happy that this morning we have these students from St. Clair Primary School, because they are one of the main reasons we should take care of our earth. We should take care of our environment. Pope Francis in Laudato Si argues that a misguided anthropocentrism need not necessarily yield to biocentrism, for that would entail adding yet another imbalance, failing to solve present problems and adding new ones. And he also admits that Christians have at times incorrectly interpreted the scriptures. Nowadays, he continues, we must forcefully reject the notion that our being created in God's image gives the dominion over the earth and justifies absolute domination over other creators. Laudato Si number 67. So, my dear friends, what is actually the problem here? Like the workers of the vineyard in the gospel today, the problem is because we want to get more from what God has given us. We want to live a life beyond God's divine and natural design. I give you an extreme example just to reflect on. God has given us 2 legs with the ability to walk and run so that we can move from one place to another. But we want to move faster than that. So we create bicycles, motorbikes, cars, buses, trains, and so on. God has given us the ability to move within the land. But when we see the birds flying, we want to get that ability as well. So we create aeroplanes. You might still remember the incident happened to an American flight back in 2009, I think, that struck a flock of birds, and the pilot had to land that plane on Hudson River. That smart decision saves 155 people on that plane. When the pilot successfully landed the plane on that river, all the passengers clapped their hands. And that incident later was made a film in 2016 starring Tom Hanks. But how about the birds that were killed? In that incident, the birds were seen as the problems, but who has the right to be up there anyway? Birds or humans? Our desire to get more than God has given us is the root of the ecological problems. Pope Francis in Laudato Si argues that it is important to restore human being in its proper place in the world. We are not the owner of other creations. This earth and all its content have been entrusted to us by God so that we can look after and take care of it in the way that God Himself will do. In line with the gospel today, we can say that we are only the workers in God's vineyard, and God is the only owner of that vineyard. We shouldn't get more than we should get. Finally, to end my reflection this morning, I would like to draw your attention to the wee decoration we have here on the sanctuary. If you notice, this decoration has been here since we started the season of creation. At my left here, this decoration. Can you notice that there is something missing in this decoration? First time when I looked at this decoration, I was asking, where are humans? Why there are no statues of humans in this decoration? But when I was preparing this reflection, I came down here again in front of this altar and looked again at this decoration and reflect on it. And I realized that I was asking this question because I didn't see myself as a part of this decoration. All of us here, when we see this decoration, we should see ourselves as a part of it, because we are all interconnected with God, with plants, with animals, with stones, with water, with our environment. And this is what Pope Francis calls integral ecology. We should live our life in this earth with this kind of realization that we are interconnected with God, with our fellow humans, with other creations, and with our earth as well. Thanks to Tom Brady and his team for this wonderful decoration.